Saturday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Good morning.
The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
And 75 years later, we welcome you to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Kind of a sobering morning that's thinking that 75 years ago that those folks slipped in off the aircraft carriers, got 100 miles away from Hawaii, and caught us with their pants down, literally. So we thought that we'd kind of make note of the fact that today's Pearl Harbor Day. We have with us a guest this morning, not really a guest, an old friend of mine, Mr. Orville Shaffer. We brought Orville up because he and I were in the same class at high school together. We had similar experiences. And Orville is a mover to shaker for the honor flight. Those folk down there in Springfield who do such a great job for us. We're going to talk about that later. First, let's go to kudos. We always try to do that with Viewpoint. Judith K., you have an especially good one that I want you to tell us about. I really am impressed.
I was impressed. I was ringing the Salvation Army bell out at Kroger the other night. Well, it was a week ago tonight. And a young man came through, nice-looking kid, early 20s, and I looked at him and I thought, oh dear, why did they dye their hair these colors? You know, because people my age didn't used to do that.
It was pretty red, as I understood it.
It was about like a fire engine.
That's pretty
and
red.
I thought, why did they do that? And so he went on into the store and did his thing, and he came back and he handed me a bouquet. And he said, I bought you this because you're ringing the bell. And I felt so ashamed of myself for being judgmental. You know, sometimes we people my age judge a book by its cover, and shame on us. And he was a lovely, lovely kid, beautiful smile. God bless him.
But the fact that he took time and spent a buck or two.
Yes, he did.
Bring you in, that was a very lovely bouquet he brought you.
Yes, it was.
And I was kind of taken.
I was blown away.
Yeah,
I never had such a sweet thing happen to me in 77 years.
And he did it anonymously. He didn't say, hi, I'm so-and-so.
No.
Just did it because he wanted to do it. And I thought that was
just his mother should be proud. He was
Absolutely.
a lovely person.
Yeah. Well,
he'll be a credit to the world.
Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention, because it's a little snippet of life that means a lot. Little thing. Just such a little thing like that.
And get surprises like that every once in a while.
Yes, exactly right. Well, a couple other kudos. They have to do with how lucky we are to have Lincoln College and Lincoln Christian University in our community, besides the huge economic impact that they make. But culturally, they provide some wonderful entertainment. I went out to Lincoln Christian University last Friday night, and they had Christmas in the Chapel, the annual gig that they do out there. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you it was spectacular. It was Las Vegas stuff. I mean, the lighting, the stagecraft, the costuming, the singing, everything about it. There wasn't a weak spot in the whole show. It was just outstanding. And so kudos to all those folks. Boy, there were a lot of folks that participated in that. And I'm impressed by the fact that the fellow who puts this together has such an original mind. The way he staged everything and put it all together. So kudos to them. And also our Lincoln College group. We had a group with them, some of our musicians in the choral part Saturday night, and they were very, very good. And it's nice to have that place to go to in the Johnson Center. It's kind of an intimate little studio there. Mm-hmm. Suits maybe 250. I'm not certain about it.
330.
Thank you. All right. See, I told you, I need her so badly, Orville. I want to make another comment personally. Orville, you remember Bob Seller?
Yep.
I wish I'd have brought the book with me this morning. It was nice.
He was one of our classmates.
That's right. Bob was one of the stars of the class.
Yep.
I mean, just all around. Anyway, like we older people do, he kind of fell on some pretty tough times this last years. His daughter, one of his 3 daughters, went to live with him. And it's quite an experience for them. And so she had recorded daily journals and memoranda and so forth. And she was persuaded to put it together, compile it, and put it into a book. And I mention this because it's the title of the book, and we take it in context with her experiences. He got down to the point where he had to use a walker in a wheelchair. She titled her book, Waltzing with His Walker, which I thought was a really neat, it got to me. So I found out about this because she had found her dad's old email, and she sent me didn't know me, although I found out that we did meet at her aunt's funeral in Atlanta. That was Frank Shea and Mary Shea. And in any event, she got in touch with me, and I sent her some money, and I had her send me the book. And Orville, I sat down and turned off the TV and sat down and read that book in one sitting. It's not a big, thick book, but it was just a compilation of, and you and I, knowing Bob like we knew him, would relate to what she wrote in the book more than anybody else, and Jim or Judy or anybody else. But so kudos to Maria Seller for writing this book about her daddy waltzing with his walker.
I like that.
I thought that was really a neat title. Yeah, and it was a nice picture of Bob on the front piece. I'll bring it with you to coffee some morning.
A lot of that going on at our age.
Yeah, yes, exactly. All right, 75 years ago. You know where you were on that Sunday, Orville?
I was in Chicago working.
Up to Chicago.
After I graduated from high school, I went to Chicago and worked for a while. I was up there working when it happened, and I didn't believe it. You know.
We graduated, Orville and I, May of 1941.
Yep.
And I was a freshman at Lincoln College, and that particular Sunday, I had gone over to the University of Illinois to see and hear a classical music concert. Now, those who know me will wonder why. Well, classical music. Well, I still like that music as well as some of the jazz. I like all music except from maybe 1990 on.
No, I was in Chicago, and believe it or not, I was working for Spearmint Chewing Gum.
Is that right?
Yes. And,
were you the guy that put the last piece of foil in?
No, I was the one who took it out, Jim. I worked there for quite a couple of years.
Well,
I left there and went over to Johnson & Johnson, and I was working at Johnson & Johnson, and, the war started. That happened, the World War, Pearl Harbor and everything, and I came home, and I wasn't in any rush to get in any service because if you'll recall, Bill, the old boy said, we'll be home in 6 months.
Yeah.
We'll be home in 6 months. Well, I said, why should I give up my job for 6 months,
Well, it turned out to be a rather long.
So I finally came home in late 42, and I couldn't find any of my friends in town.
Yeah.
They were all in the service.
No.
So I went back up, resigned, come down, joined the Navy. So.
And never left the continental United States in the Navy. We'll talk about that.
Somebody had to protect the shores,
Yeah.
Johnson, Orville, in later years, many later years, I sailed on the boat that they had to give up during the Depression. Mm-hmm. They created a lovely tall ship, a schooner, two-masted schooner, and it was a lovely thing. And Depression got to it, so they got rid of it. And later years, I was able to sail on that. A man and his son got a hold of it, and they refurbished it from keel to the top of the mast.
Yeah.
And they participated with the Elder Hostel organization. It was one of those deals where you pay them to work on their boat. And I enjoyed it so much I went back 3 more times. So that was a Johnson & Johnson product. The war that began actually when December the 8th was we declared war. But from December 7th on, America was drastically changed by and for everybody. Things just changed immediately, almost overnight. I say that we were kind of an innocent nation. Isolationism was the talk of the day. If you remember Colonel Charles Lindbergh, the hero of the nation, the darling of our nation, appeared in Madison Square Garden at an isolationist rally, and thereby incurred the wrath of FDR. And it took him forever to get back in FDR's graces, and he later became another hero of another kind by teaching our young fighter pilots how to fly the P-38 Lightning in the South Pacific. And in fact, as a civilian, this is interesting, as a civilian, flew combat missions there.
Is that right?
Yes, teaching, and in the process of that, we're teaching our young pilots how to use that airplane to its best ability.
Was the P-38 called affectionately the Mustang?
No, that was a P-51. The P-38 was a Lightning, a twin boom.
Oh, okay.
Orville, I don't think we ought to get into all the specifics of that. We'd be here at 10:15 o'clock, 10:30 or 11 o'clock, so any event. But those were some of the things that happened.
We were so, I'll use the word isolated, that was going on in Germany and over there. That wasn't interesting to us because we were so isolated.
In spite of its horror.
In spite of that, yes, we were still. When you woke up on that morning before you heard that, you lived in a world of peace, quiet. Couldn't happen to us until you heard that. And then what happened that day, they lined up for blocks and blocks and blocks, joining the Navy and Army and everything. They were really, young people wanted to get in there to do what they could for the country.
Oh, just immediately.
Yep.
And then, of course, what happened immediately here in Logan County and every county in the country, the draft board stepped up their activities significantly. And I want to mention something here this morning that's very, very important to me, Judith and Orville. And Jim, why don't we bring him into the conversation?
Oh, definitely.
Well, seriously. All of our young men are over in the Middle East, Far East, wherever we have them all over the world. They are volunteers, folks. They have not been drafted. And I think we need to remember that.
Yeah.
That's very impressive to me, that we can mount the kind of a force that we do, for all its foibles and failures. But we have all those folks over there as volunteers. So when you see one in the uniform, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
Very important. Now let's talk about you and I saw, I think maybe you saw it, I'm not certain, the movie last night on public broadcasting, PBS, Channel 8. It was on Pearl Harbor and the Arizona. And it was very, very interesting. And, Orville, you're going to have to get better hearing aids. And so you...
There's a lot of other things I got to get, too. At my age I always tell everybody I'm at 50 and holding, and they said how long, and I said for 40-some-odd years.
Whatever, yes. Yeah. Well, I found in kind of researching this, then Pearl Harbor was over in an hour and 10 minutes.
Pardon?
110 minutes. I'm sorry, almost 2 hours. Yeah. It was all over.
Yep.
That fast. They came up over the horizon, did their job, and disappeared.
And what a job they did. Oof.
What a job they did. I know it's all noted that the Arizona survivors can now be buried with their shipmates if they wished.
Yeah.
And I saw that process on television. The diver takes it down to a certain spot in the Arizona and leaves them there with their buddies. And that's the end of that service. It's a very private service. They do that after all of the sightseers have gone. And that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I noted this fellow named Stratton, who was featured in this. He was one of the survivors, one of the very few survivors of the Arizona. And they featured him in this program last night.
I don't know if I'd want to do that or not, though, leave my family, so to speak, But it'd be an honor to do that, if you were there. But, and I'm glad that they want to do that and will do that. So.
In the Arizona, there's 1,117 members down there.
Yeah.
Just in one ship.
Yeah, I know.
And they managed to refurbish most of those bombed ships at Pearl Harbor so that they could be used.
Right. Yeah, the Arizona's the only one that was really left. And, I guess time will, and the currents and so forth. Well, we rode that thing until ultimately it'll disappear. And that's an amazing thing. I thought it'd be there in perpetuity. But ultimately it's going to break down and crumble away and be swept away.
Yeah, well, time moves. Strange things,
648-5510. We might have somebody here that is old and crippled like Orville and I, that will have their own memories of and where they were on that fateful Sunday. Judith, I went to the library. That's a wonderful service we have in the library. There's a microfiche film.
Oh, my, yes.
And Orville and I went, got the Courier of that time. Mm-hmm. And I found, in looking at it, we had several servicemen, 5 of us in Logan County, who were in Hawaii at that time. Not on one of the ships or anything, but they were over there, stationed there for whatever reason. And one of them was Bob Guy, boy from Beeson. Arnold Hines, we know Arnold. Joe Georgievich. Bernard Toomey Jr. and Vern Rubin King. Bernard Toomey Jr. was later became a pilot of a B-24, and it got shot up, and he was smart enough and lucky enough to get the ship into Sweden. Now, he was Bernard Toomey Sr., Atlanta guy, Jim, and later a county commissioner. In any event, Bernard Jr. was able to steer that B-24 and fly it to Sweden, and of course that was a neutral country. He sat the rest of the war out in Sweden, he and the crew member that were on that B-24.
Well, lucky for him.
I always accused him of
probably singing Coming In on a Wing and a Prayer.
Yeah, well, that's about right. Remember that song?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to know Bernard pretty well. I always accused him of faking his injury or his damage to his plane and just running for Sweden.
It's a good, smart thinking.
Yeah, he did.
And that was kind of early in the bombing period, so he sat there quite a while. So, Judith Kay, what did you have to say that you wanted to talk about on that particular day?
Well, you make mention of the rationing that was experienced by the families here. And
yeah, a ration book was a precious commodity in the house. You took care of that.
Oh, yeah. My brother and I were little. I was born in July of 1939, so I don't remember the war at all. I do remember skipping down the sidewalk, and we'd say, step in a hole, break Hitler's sugar bowl. Step on a crack, break Hitler's back. We didn't know who Hitler was or anything, but at any rate, that's what we'd say. And my mom had tokens and stamps in a box. And my dad we moved a lot, and my dad had moved.
You avoid paying bills that way.
Yeah, had moved on to the next lumber yard. I think he'd probably gone up to the Twin Cities. But at any rate, we were still in Wells, Minnesota, which is in southern Minnesota. And so he'd come home only for the weekends. So she'd save her stamps, and we'd have meat on the weekends. We'd eat eggs during the week as kids. And I don't remember about the rationing of sugar or tires or coffee.
You were too young. You didn't know. I didn't know
we didn't have that. But your cost of living list is amazing. If somebody knows what the average wage was in 1941, it would be interesting to hear, because the costs of things were a little different than they are now, as well as the wage.
A little bit.
Just a tad. Yeah. Just a tad. Bill, maybe you can talk about what you found there.
Well, for instance, the average cost of a new house, $4,000. Of course.
My new furnace costs better than twice that.
In fact,
or 3 times.
Well, the average wage per year, according to the statistics that I boogered up, $1,750.
There you go. There you go.
Annually.
Yep.
You spill that much in liquor.
Don't tell all secrets, Bill.
Yeah.
Gasoline, Orville, was 12 cents. By the way,
I have a book of green stamps at home yet.
Is that a fact?
That was my dad's, yes.
Green stamps. Well, those were advertising things. They didn't have anything to do with the war.
No, they were the ration stamps.
Oh, the ration stamps, yeah. I never will forget, I was still on Chicago Street in business there, and the guy selling green stamps gave me an advertising thing.
No.
I said, I didn't think I really needed that. And he says, well, you'll be out of business in the next year. I said, well, that's the way it's going to be my luck. Goodbye.
It be what it be, huh, Bill?
The average cost for a house rent, $32.
$32.
But bearing in mind now, you're only getting $1,750 a year, so $32 was a piece of change.
Well, I noticed here, Beauty Rest mattress was $40. I just bought a My Pillow for $39.95.
That's just a pillow. Oofta.
Go right ahead, Judith K. I got some notes there for you.
Well, a car was $850. Apples, 25 cents for 2 pounds.
So, by the way, what's that word pippin? What is that?
That's a variety of apple.
See, you're never too old to learn something, Orville. You didn't know that, neither did I to this very day.
Interesting to learn new things.
Yes.
He's a lot older than I am.
I needed
Oh,
that.
yeah, I'm sure. A couple months, probably. Sliced bacon, 59 cents.
Yep.
Custom tailored suit, $39.95, about like your pillow.
Now,
And coal, I got a coal chute at my house and a coal bin. Have you?
yeah, remember Orville?
Have
now,
you, Jim?
remember they used to deliver coal, and
No.
remember that.
Yeah.
I hold many a ton of coal into Lincoln.
That's
Oh,
And where did you get that coal?
Athens, Bar,
Middletown.
Coal, over at Middletown, Johnson & Johnson, and Greenview. And Dad didn't buy from Lincoln here. He wanted to get it from out of town, and we'd move it in. He had a little trailer semi, probably wasn't any longer than this building, this room, and we had 13 ton on there, and I backed it in and out of that was for the war, and had 10 ton or 13 ton on. I put it in 10 different places. That was when they went to the coal. They took the coal miner out on strike, and everybody had to have a little bit of coal, So
yeah.
Anyway.
I remember my grandpa had a stoker
Oh yeah,
for his furnace, and
That was a big deal to get one of those.
Oh,
he'd
yeah.
take the clinkers and put them on the driveway at the back of his house.
We're going to be clinkers with our sponsors if we don't give them a few minutes.
What do you mean?
Go right ahead, James. We're back live in the studio here, WLCN, the program The Viewpoint, of course. And this morning we're doing a little nostalgic reminiscing because this is the 75th day, 75th anniversary of December 7th, 1941. As Mr. Roosevelt said, a day that lived then and now in infamy. It markedly changed the entire world and certainly had an immediate impact on the citizens of Golden County. We're just doing a little wild reminiscing. So if anybody has a comment or input they'd like to make, 648-5510. I noted, I went back to the Couriers, I said, thanks to the library and its wonderful services. The three theaters, if you'll recall, we had three theaters in this town. The Grand, which is a property that's now vacant, and
Vogue.
That's on the Broadway Street there. The Vogue. And the Vogue had this number. The movie was called Hold Back the Dawn. Whatever that was, I don't know. And at the Lincoln Theater, we had a called Navy Blue. And if you recall, Orville, in those days at the theater, you always had pre-selected shorts and comics and so forth. And then the arcade, Pathé News of the day, and all those little things. Now, I'll never forget a comedy skit with a fellow named Robert Benchley, who was a noted humorist and author and so forth. And his skit that day on this film, he was presenting a noted treatise on the sex life of the amoeba.
Boy, that'd be spellbinding.
Sounds interesting,
He
doesn't
went
it?
on, now mind you, I don't know, God, I can't, why did I remember this? And he went on and on about the amoeba and its importance to life and so forth, and he said, and this is an amoeba, and hold up an open hand to the and of course you saw nothing. Now, why would I remember such a little thing like
You
that?
neglected to mention what the movie was at the Grand.
Oh, life begins for Andy Hardy.
Andy Hardy.
Mickey Rooney.
Yep.
I saw Mickey Rooney overseas after the VE Day. He was over there in uniform, doing some entertaining for the troops in the USO, which was the United Service Organization. They did a wonderful job, and still do today for these guys.
Yes.
But we had, at that time, we had real entertainers, big time stuff, quality stuff. In any event, one day after I'd seen him in the city of Paris, I was working at my desk at the Orly Field there, and I was working the circuit between Washington and Paris, because the station was WXIA over in Washington. And a message came through to every military unit in Europe, and it was from General Hogue, commanding general of Europe. And I can almost repeat this verbatim. If Mickey Rooney is on board at your station, offload immediately, is not to return to the ZI, which was the zone of the interior, not to return to the ZI by aircraft. So what that was all about, I have never knew. But I received that message and had to take it up and give it to my CO. The little snippet here. The fact that we had a number of guys in Hawaii on that particular day was kind of interesting. And Arnie Hines, I've never talked to him about that. Arnie's a great railroad man. He's a guy who has always loved railroads and anything to do about them, and even had a conductor's cap and a uniform and all. And every once in a while, he got to know these people in urban. That was the ITS, and they'd let him ride from here and so forth. And so
Andy Urban, yeah.
Yes,
Country streetcar.
in those days, for those who wonder what we're talking about, the interurban was interurban. It went from St. Louis to Peoria, and then over to Bloomington, Danville, and made a circuit. And it was a marvelous thing to have in those days for people to ride. And they would stop on the way to Peoria. They'd stop at some siding somewhere and pick up 2 or 3 milk cans, and
Or people.
And you could wave them down. You didn't have to go to a depot or anything. Yes, you could stand out there and wave them.
Anywhere on the road?
Yes.
People in Hartsburg used to walk out to there and stop them and get on and come into Lincoln, and because my wife was from there, and my father and mother-in-law used to tell me about, their hardships,
Well, in fact, there were a lot of hardships. We were just coming out of the Depression, not doing too good a job. The war turned out over in a hurry. But at that time in the 30s, there were some real hardships. Many people were desperately poor. Others didn't have much, but we didn't know we didn't have much. And then others had considerably more.
I get pictures every once in a while. I see them of the dust storms. Remember those out the west?
All right, now, Orville,
yes.
You have brought with you a T-shirt, which you and I were issued when we took the honor flight.
You're right.
Now, I'm going to let you tell us about the honor flight, how it began, and how important it is to today's veterans.
Okay. When I went on my honor flight in 1610, excuse me, I was one of the first around here went on it, and I was really surprised. And when I came back, I wrote a little letter.
Well, let's describe what the honor flight specifically is.
Okay, that's what
somebody might not really know. They ought to with the way things going today, but there are people who really do not know about the honor flight.
So the honor flight is a organization that out of Springfield who is set up to take every veteran that was in uniform during the World War II, the Korean, and now they're working on the Vietnam, to Washington, D.C. We take them in one day. They take them. It's a long day. It's a hard day for them because some of them are pretty tired when they get back.
And some are wheelchair bound.
And when I went, we had 104 people on the plane, and 45 of them were in wheelchairs. I saw them take one of them out very gently and put him in a seat in the front of the plane. Same way they treat the veterans like royalty, if I may use that. We don't have royalty.
Like we were generals.
Like we were generals, yes. And come back. But I went in, and I've been involved with it. And if you don't mind me mention another fellow by the name of Wayne Sheely, we go down to every one of the flights that come in. We welcome the veterans as they come through. If you ever get an opportunity to go down there when the flight's coming in, it's an amazing sight to see. People standing there going them, but it is an opportunity for each veteran to be able to go out there to see their memorial. They started it in, I think, in 2009. A gentleman by the, and I have it here, Earl Morris, who was a retired now physician who was doing work on veterans, and he had one in the chair one time. I was talking to one of them, and he said about the World War II memorial, and if he'd ever seen it, he said no, and he didn't have the funds to do it. Well, this gentleman had a private plane, so he loaded him on there and took him over, and that's where the honor flight started. And so then when he got back, he started talking to other guys, other people, and they started taking people, and now then we've had 6 flights this year. We put 6 out, and now we've already got one scheduled for April of next year.
Now think of this. I want to mention this just briefly. It cost a lot of money to put those airplanes in the air. And here in Springfield, Illinois, a local chapter, we've been able to amass enough to fly 6 airplane full of veterans out there.
All donations, not a bit of government money, not a bit of anybody's money.
No
all
administrative
donations.
expense.
Pardon?
No administrative expense, because those people are doing it.
Volunteers.
Are doing it out of the depth of their hearts.
Yes, yeah. I'm going to say we lost a good man. He retired.
Oh yeah.
He was really a great man. He was very dedicated, and now we have a young lady who I think is just as well
showing the same dedication.
Oh yeah, she's wonderful. And anybody that is interested, I'd like to tell every veteran between now and Vietnam, please enter your name to go, because we're going to try to get them all going. So it is an organization that's going. Now, I'm a World War II veteran, and so is Bill, and we went on it, and I have a T-shirt here. It's got an airplane on it, Land of Lincoln, and it's a blue shirt. Well, now with the Korean going, they have a yellow. And Bill, you'll have to remind me what color is for the Vietnam.
Well, it's kind of a cardinal red.
Well, I don't know what color it is. I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of it.
By the way, the cardinal's plumage is faded a little.
Yeah, and I'm not making fun of it, because I talked to a guy and he said he wasn't about to go on that trip, and I talked and got him to go on the trip, and he thanked me. He's dead now, by the way. He passed away, and he said I'm glad he never missed it, because it's an inspiring thing, I think. I was so enthused when I came back from my trip, which was right after yours, I believe. And I volunteered to be a guardian. A guardian is the one who has to, every veteran has to have a guardian, because some need some help. Some need wheelchairs. Well, they told me I was too old.
Oh, really?
To hurt my feelings. But the truth of the matter is, the actual truth is, while I'm doing pretty decent shape, getting buses out of wheelchairs out of buses and setting them up and all would have been too much for me. I couldn't do that. So I wanted to comment about how this really, Captain Earl Moore started that. This is right. This is the Bob Dole Memorial is what I call it, because Senator Bob Dole was the driving force behind this magnificent World War II memorial. And so the part of your story was exactly right, but it was more than his first plane. He got some of his flying buddies. They had a flying club out there in Ohio, and there were, I think, 5 or 6 planes took these guys out, and that was the beginning. And that shows you the point of the whole story is making a difference. One person Captain Earl Morris, started this and is now exponentially spread to every state in the United States except, of course, Hawaii. And I think Alaska may be in this too, so it'd be every state except Hawaii.
Yeah.
And that's how that started, from one man.
One man, yes.
Having the heart and the wisdom to proceed with it.
Yes.
So one man can make a difference.
And look what it's done. There's a lot of people who have joined, if you want to call it that, the club, to get these veterans out there. They give a lot of time, their own energy and everything to get it going. I know this group that is down Springfield, they've spent a lot of time on it because they check out a lot of things, and it just takes time. So,
well, for instance, one, we talked about getting the money. A little thing, Orville and I, several years ago, until we were asked to take them down, and we understood that because they'd been up for a while. I went out to the convenience store and bought some little plastic dishes of some sort, and cut a hole in them and put a little flag on them and so forth, and put a little sign on them, and had those out at various fast food places in the community. $2,500 or so, was that what it was?
Roughly.
All said and done? Roughly $2,500 in nickels, dimes, and quarters.
Yeah. And
in over a year.
Yep.
Just a little thing. And people, once in a while, I'd find a $10 bill in there when I go in. Yeah. I'm not sure Orville got that to the bank. I never didn't know.
I probably tried to match it if I could.
That's about right.
Right.
So I wish somebody would remember some. Well, of course, our audience is all younger. They're not. They're not.
You don't need to remind me, Bill. I'm living that, But you mentioned a while ago that every two people have a guardian. Every two people, no matter what, they have a guardian. But if you had by the way, a man can't let his wife be the guardian because he don't want the whole family on a plane in case anything was to happen. So if you have a daughter and you want to buy her a place on there, you can buy her a guardian, to be the guardian. But when you come back on the plane, and I don't like to tell this too loud, but they have a surprise on you when you're on the plane, and your boy, that the lights are going down dim, you say, I'm going to get a little nap in, and about that time, on comes the light, and they start yelling a word, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, because and it wakes you up, and that gives you a good feeling, too.
Sure.
They give you something. Everybody gets something at that time. I have in my briefcase here what my guardian gave me. Now, every guardian doesn't do the same thing. My guardian gave me I don't know how many pictures he took, and he put them in a booklet, and some of them, and it's in my briefcase here, and I look at that every once in a while. Sure. I think to myself, how fortunate I've been to be able to be associated with his honor flight. And I would like to suggest to any and everybody who is, please join the honor flight and see if you're eligible to go to it. If you are World War II, Korean, or vet, or NAM.
Or what we might suggest, too, this being tax time, people begin to think about, we're almost coming up to December 31st. Somebody might be disposed to give a couple of bucks to the honor flight.
Right.
And that's easily done. The computers are so prevalent now. Just Google up honor flight, Springfield, Illinois, and that's all you need to do, and you'll get the information you need to do that. Well, Judith K., Orville and I have kind of usurped the time this morning. My apologies to you.
Don't say that, because I think I can speak for many, or both ones, maybe. This has been a good morning, and I thank you both very much.
Well, thank you. I don't know who made this comment, but I'll close with Pearl Harbor Remembrance Morning with this comment. The lesson of Pearl Harbor ought to never be forgotten. And, of course, the motto that came from that, this was written in 69 years ago, not 75. The war which my dad fought was, remember Pearl Harbor, never again. We need to keep that in mind. Thank you for Viewpoint.